So I had to leave it at my work.
No, we're listening to your wallet story, Jamal. Jamal, girl. Hey, wait, Jamal, flex your wallet. Flex your wallet.
Come on. So you had a book bag.
Yeah, flex your wallet. Flex your wallet.
You had a book bag.
Flex your wallet. Flex his wallet. Yeah, flex it. Flex it. Flex it. Spread that. Spread it.
Hey, what's up, guys? Making a video about New York City this past weekend. So today's Monday, April 25th, so 2022. So whenever you're watching this, this was the past weekend, and I was visiting a buddy from college up there in New York. Took the bus up there. I was late, and this is just like, you know, the pickup story. I'm going to produce more of these videos and see where they go, because every time I go out, it's a different story, then I forget it 3 weeks later or 4 weeks later, and you only get the best parts, whether it's like getting laid or whatever else. So I also might start attaching videos inside of here. I couldn't find an animator who wanted to do this. All of them were either shit or way overpriced. So I'm just going to put some gaming footage in the background to give you guys something to watch. If not, you can just pull open another tab and do something else as you listen to this. Anyway, so I went to New York this past weekend, and I have a coworker, and he was like, go to East Village, go to East Village, go to East Village, because I'm young, I'm 22, and that's where the girls are. I mean, there's also clubs you can go to, but because my friend and I, let's call him Steven. So, because Steven and I were not dressed up very well, we were both wearing tracksuits or windbreakers. We weren't going to get into any good clubs, because you kind of have to dress like a finance bro or a little bit of a prick to get into clubs. And all the girls dress the same in leather jackets, and all the guys dress in suits to go out to those clubs. So there's a little bit of a dress code there, whereas in DC, there's not nearly as much of a dress code. You just have to wear pants, essentially. And some places make you dress up. So we ended up going out to East Village. I might put up a map here of New York City. And we went out there. We're going out all day long, basically from the time we woke up. So Saturday, we actually went there, and it was just too late. It was like 1:30. And then the metro or subway would take 45 minutes. So we're like, fuck it. We're not gonna go out tonight. We were gonna go to East Village, but let's just go to bed. And we talked for like 3 hours, and then passed out. Went to bed. Talked to his roommate. His roommate had his whole balcony. Yeah, what's up? Friday night. Oh no, we stay in Friday night. We hang out with his roommate, who has this whole balcony set up, and they're in East Harlem, which is kind of a rough neighborhood. And New York's got a little more dangerous, so I'll go into that in another video about almost getting mugged and shit like that. Anyway, so Saturday night we just went all around the city drinking basically the entire day, and then about 7 p.m. we go out. We just start bar hopping, and the bars were extremely underwhelming. They were tiny, I guess because the real estate's so pricey. But because my previous bar experiences, one was in Williamsburg, I think that's what it's called, which is like east of New York City, and that was huge. It was a giant club in the middle of a warehouse. And then there was also another one when I went over the summer, and that was also huge. So I was kind of underwhelmed. It was just these tiny little bars. So we start bar hopping, and we go in, and I don't know what he named him, just call him Steven. So Steven's a little bit drunk, has ADHD, so he's being a little bit of a fucking spaz about girls. And then I'm also drunk as well, and also on nootropics. So we're running around this whole area, and we just start doing our thing. And, you know, I do the classic pickup line, like, hey, I thought you're cute. Figured I'd say hello. There was a couple bachelorette parties, a couple couples out, and the places were really shitty, honestly. There's like a dive bar a pool hall, another pool hall, and just some small rinky-dinky bars, and we're like, damn, this sucks. So we start going from place to place. We go in this one place, and like, oh, the other room's going to open at 11. And I'm looking at this bar. I'm like, this is kind of shit, but it's packed with like 150 people. And it was this tiny little room, essentially. And the other room, they told us, hey, we're letting girls in, but you guys can't come in because you're guys. And it was a private party. So, yeah, that's New York pretentiousness for you. So from there, we go to another place, and this place, I'm talking to Steven, we're getting warmed up, and I do my classic line, and there's like 5 girls, and I was like, oh, let's go to another bar, and I'm like, all right, I'll do one more. This is probably my 5th, 6th, 7th set of the day, or of that night, actually, in the last hour or two, and I go up, and I'm like, hey, I thought you were cute, figured to say hello. I could just tell instantly, like a deer in headlights, or like, she was instantly turned on, and then her friend was there too, and I could tell her friend liked me, but she wouldn't step over her other friend's boundaries. Yeah, so me and Steven are talking to this group. It's a group of like 5, 6, 7 Asians from Hong Kong, and they all knew each other since like middle school, so I guess they're real tight, which was good for us. And we start doing our thing, talking. They start feeding me drinks, which was nice. And they started giving Steven some drinks. They started giving me some drinks. We're drinking with them. We're laughing. Classic thing. And then I'm like, all right, got the hook, line, and sinker. Now just establish some reputation. So I pull her to the other side of the bar. I'm like, hey, do you want to go dance? And there's like, this bar is... It's a nice bar. It's small, and there's maybe 30 people in there, and we're like 7 out of the 30 people, maybe 40 people. So I basically set Steven up with her friend, and because he's not so good at pickup or not as comfortable, he was like really shy about it, whereas I was really direct with my girl, and it was cool because they're best friends. But I bring my girl over. We'll call her Stephanie. Make everyone hear S's. And Stephanie comes over. We start dancing a little bit. She's having a fun time. I'm having a fun time. No one's dancing in this place. And then, Steven and Sam I'll just call her Sam, are having a great time too. So we're all having a good time. And I was like, hey, let's go to another bar. And they're all down with it. So my girl's definitely down with it. And then her friend wanted to come along for the ride. Probably look out for her. She didn't really seem too interested. Sam did not seem too interested in Steven, but she just wanted to like go out with her friend, and I guess their group wasn't doing too much that night, so we're like, fuck it. So we all leave, and we go to another bar, and then I'm looking outside. I'm like, guys, we're gonna get dress coded. Sure enough, we get dress coded because we're wearing our windbreakers, and that blew. So we got kicked out. Went to another bar. Where was this? It was another tiny bar. Maybe 60, 70 people in there, if that. And we just start talking. I know I'm taking this girl home for sure. And I know Steven's going to take Sam home. So he goes up, and he's trying his credit card. It doesn't work, so I like throw my credit card. And he gets drinks for her. I get drink for my girl. And then I'm like, all right, like, do you want to, like, head out to... So this entire time I told her this lie that I was from New York in order to make her feel more comfortable and not activate her ASD. So that happened, and I lied to her about that. And she was so into me, asking me all these questions. I was, like, kind of into her. She'd be a little bit annoying. Well, she wasn't annoying at that point. And, Sam's slowly warming up to Steven a little bit, but they're still kind of cold, just because he's not talking too much. But he's asking her questions, but it was more like a monologue than a dialogue, whereas ours, we were just bouncing back and forth, like very high-strung, drunk kind of energy, whereas theirs was like a more serious conversation, more formal, which is not what girls want when they go out to a bar. Let's be clear. And then afterwards, I don't know what I named my girl, but... whatever, I start bringing her back to the subway, and I'm like, hey, I just moved here, which was a total lie. So we go back to the subway, and she's like, oh, we can go back to my place. I'm like, oh, because my place is so far. And I just told her I was from Harlem, because that's where Steven's from. That's like one of the only places I knew in New York. And that was like 40 minutes north, 30 minutes north, because the subways there suck now. They used to not suck. And she lived like 10 minutes away, 15 minutes away. So she just started being really sassy at this point. And she was like, hey, like, let's just take an Uber back to my place. And I'm like, I mean, we're kind of in the middle of New York City, East Village. That's where we're at now. I think her place was more like west, I believe, a little more north, something like that. So I guess north of East Village, wherever the fuck that is. And she's being a little bit annoying. She was like, hey, let's just Uber back to my place. I'm like, okay, let me pull it up. I pull up the Uber. It's like $30. And in my head, I'm like, all right, like, I'm not a cheap ass, but I'm not spending $30 over $2.75 for a Subway. So that's just being stupid. So she's a little bit annoying there. And then we go down to the Subway, and she's like, oh, like, why don't you figure this out, like, where we're going? And I'm like, why don't you just tell me, because, like, you're from New York. And she was just playing hard to get and being a little bit sassy. I think it's what New York girls do. And she was like, yeah, why don't you guess or try to figure it out? I'm like, I don't really want to guess. You want to just tell me? And she's like, no, like, you have to figure it out. So she kind of pissed me off there. And then I see Steven and Sam come down on the metro, and on the subway, rather. And I just hide behind the pillar because my girl's leaning up on the pillar, so I hide behind it because they're on the exact same line. They're taking a different train to go back to Steven's place. So I'm like, all right, I'm not going to ruin their night, because if the girl sees my girl, let's call her Stephanie, Sam sees Stephanie, then they might be like, oh, let's go back together or something, and that would ruin both Steven and my night, which would be disastrous. So I just hid behind the pillar, and I told them the next day that I was behind the pillar, just so they wouldn't see us, and to increase our chances, so to speak. So we're behind the pillar. We finally get on. Like, I figured it out. I'm like, oh, it's this one. Like, this is definitely it. She's like, are you sure? Are you sure? And I'm like, honestly, I don't know. Why don't you just tell me? We go on the subway. We get off the right place. And then we walk in the wrong direction for like 5 minutes. And she's like, oh, like, you didn't know? I'm like, why don't you just tell me? And it was like 12:30 at this point. No, it was like 1:30. So it's really not that late. But because we were out all day walking around, I was more tired than usual. And we were day drinking the whole day. So I probably had 12 to 14 shots all day. Yeah, something like that. So we go back to her place, and her apartment's really fucking weird. It's like a maze. Like, people say like a maze, but it was shaped like that. Is really long, narrow hallways. It definitely wasn't meant to be an apartment. It was made from another building. Because we went into her room, there's these giant ceilings, probably 2.5 times a normal ceiling, which I think is like 11 feet. So that was cool. I told her, I was like, why don't you just put your bed up there and make a loft? Because there was literally enough space to do it. And, yeah, then we banged. And then, yeah, then in the morning, too, banged again at like 5. And then in the morning, banged again. So there's like three times, 3 sessions, whatever. And then after that, she basically kicked me out at 10. She was like, hey, like, I have stuff to do. We talked a little bit, but 1, because she was chubby, and 2, because she was pissing me off. 3, because I don't live in New York. I was like, I'm never going to see this girl again. I have no vested interest in being here. But, yeah, it was like 10 a.m. It was like 9 o'clock, and I started charging up my phone. And then it was at 40% because it was dead. And she's like, I have something to do at 10. I'm like, okay. Like, let me just charge my phone. And I basically got booted out of her place. It's funny because Sam and Steven were talking, and that girl actually really liked me. I don't know if she had stuff to do. I don't think she did. Doesn't matter. I went out and had fun on my own after that. But that was my night. And then Sam and Steven both went back to his place, and they had a great night. So I'll probably continue this, make the video shorter, but that'll be part 1.